Garden MacGyver here. Today I'm going to talk to you about growing tomatoes, how to be successful at it, what to do and what not to do. Um, One of the common things that people tell me about tomatoes is that when they have to put them in pots because if they put them in the ground, they don't grow. Well, as you can see behind me here, this isn't in a pot, it's in the ground. And one of the main reasons that people have problems growing in the ground is because of a little pest known as a root knot nematode. And basically what root knot nematodes do is they live in the soil, usually poor soil. Florida's full of them. Um, and what they do is they infest the root system and they cut off nutrients and that supply the plant so it can grow. So what commonly happens a lot is people will be growing tomato bush will be growing nice, it'll look all good, and all of a sudden it'll start turning yellow. And you think, okay, well it needs water, so you keep watering it, and it just keels over and dies. Well, that's root knot nematodes. And what you have to do to combat that is to grow root knot nematode resistant tomato plants. So, good example of that is Better Boy. Better Boy is actually one of my favorites to grow because Better Boy is nematode resistant. Whenever if you're somebody who picks out seeds, um, it has to have an N next to the name. Another one that is good is uh, Big Boy is nematode resistant. So is Celebrity. So is uh, I can't think of any others at the moment. But basically, those are the type that you want to grow because what it does is it allows the plant actually resists the nematodes, which then in turn helps them to continue to grow and you still get a harvest. Even though it's infested, it doesn't affect the plant at all. So that's one thing. And if you're going to grow in containers, you got to have the right container. And in order to get something like this behind me, and to get a good harvest off of it, I'm talking probably 20-gallon container, maybe something along this size. As you can see, something this big. Anything smaller than that, I wouldn't even bother growing in the container because it just doesn't work. Another thing too is a lot of people don't like to start their own seed, and I understand you want to just have the plant, you want to stick it in the ground and let it grow and get your tomatoes. But the problem with that is when you go in to select your tomato plants, one of the key things to remember is that if it has flowers on it or if it has fruit on it, you don't want it. Don't buy it. It's worthless. Because what happens if it looks anything like this? See how this has fruit on it? See the fruit? You're not going to get much more than this. You might get off of something like this. I just grew this to show as an example, but that's it. That's what you're going to get. You're not going to get much off of it. If you start your own seed in your own container, have a little patience with it. When it starts to get bigger and get root bound, you put it in the ground. You'll do way better than you do buying them from Walmart. Now, if you buy them from wherever you buy them from and they don't have flowers or fruit, you probably do pretty well. The other thing is avoid high nitrogen fertilizers, especially with tomato plants, because what it does is if the nitrogen's high on it, it causes it to get big and bushy, and but it bears late, and then then it's more susceptible to disease, and you get less fruit off of it. And then the other thing too is when you grow tomatoes, a lot of people have a problem with cracking. Um, the best way to deal in cracking is due to moisture stress And no matter what you do, you will have some cracking. Even I get some cracking on my fruit, and I have drip irrigation, which I'll show in another video on how to do your own gravity-fed drip irrigation. But basically, if you're going to get, if your soil's all dry and you're going to get a rainstorm or whatever. I know this sounds kind of crazy, but go out and water your tomatoes before the rain hits. Because what happens is if your soil's all dry and you have fruit on there, and all of a sudden you get a downpour, you get this sudden rush of water to the root system, and the plant sucks it up. And when it sucks it up, it cracks the fruit. So that's just a little trick that helps with that. And but remember, pick nematode-resistant cultivators. Got to have an N. That and high phosphate. Always high phosphate on anything you grow, because that's root and fruit. That's where you're going to get your biggest yields from. And make sure too that you add lime, because lime helps with taste. It helps with yield. You won't get blossom end rot where you get that black stuff on the bottom of your tomatoes. And then whether or not you want to prune your suckers or not, that's a debate that'll go on forever. I personally don't. Now, in pruning your suckers, what you're doing is you're allowing the plant to concentrate on fruit. Now, if you want nothing but great big massive 1 pound tomatoes, then prune your suckers. But I'm happy with 8 ounce to 1 pound tomatoes. I mean, I still get large tomatoes, but I get more by not pruning my suckers and providing adequate food for them. That makes up for not having to prune them. And I mean, like in my high phosphate video, fruits of high phosphate, you can see I had one tomato plant. That tomato plant was only 5 feet tall. I had 46 tomatoes on it. So I wish you well, and that's it for today.